Hi there, I'm Samuel Doveri Vesterbye, the Director of the European Neighbourhood Council and host of MEDIATIZED EU podcast series. Today, we're continuing our deep dive into the MEDIATIZED EU project, which is a 4-year-long initiative funded by the European Union through the Horizon program. And this project brings together partners from 7 countries: Georgia, Belgium, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, Hungary, and Estonia. In previous episodes, we've divided into the early stages of our research, and we've discussed the key findings, which include like desk research, policy scoping report, media analysis, shared insights from copious interviews and political and media elites in each country, kind of shedding light on the dominant discourses about the EU and as well as their influence on policymakers and journalists, especially in the media. And so at this point, our teams have already conducted nationwide surveys, and we've held kind of discussions with many different public groups. We have a lot of findings from these efforts, and we want to kind of provide a rich perspective on the state of debates surrounding this European project and European integration and how it's kind of represented in each of these countries' public opinions. And so today I'm joined by my colleague from Estonia, Andres Konno, who is research fellow at the Baltic Film and Media School in Tallinn. Andres will discuss the findings from Estonia and also offer deeper insights into how the EU is portrayed and perceived there. And so let me start by welcoming you, Andres, and thanking you for joining me today.
Hello, thanks for this opportunity. It's really great and I enjoy being here. So.
Great. So let me jump right in with the first question. So in the case of Estonia, what were the key findings from the nationwide survey that you completed as part of the project?
As we look at the survey results, the most interesting part is it concerns the audience who is kind of exposed to this discourse over what is Europe and how media channels represent Europe. And the most important takeaway at this point, I think, is the difference between Estonian and Russian-speaking communities, because they really have different media consumption habits, and they really have different expectations towards what they are looking from media. Estonian government has really been pushing towards this unified Estonian media sphere, and there are a lot of investment in Russian-speaking or Russian language channels. Also, public broadcasting has a TV channel, radio channel, all our private media houses, they have Russian-speaking channels, and one could kind of expect that they are really trusted and used widely and accepted in Russian-speaking community. Besides that, due to the war, all these Russian-speaking channels are prohibited that originate from Russia. But really, and one can say also that they follow these channels, but Russian-speaking community, they don't watch Estonian channels in Estonian, so they regularly follow media. Less than 10% of them, they regularly follow media in Estonian, and Estonians, on the other hand, less than 3%, they only watch media in Russian. So these channels kind of keep them separated in a sense. Also, what is...
Can I ask you a question? Are
yes.
these Russian channels originating from Russia, or are they being broadcasted from the European Union and Estonia?
No, I mean channels that are produced in Estonia. So, and there is a different angle also. Although this the preference towards television channels is really strong, they use them, watching them over the VPNs. So we don't really know the exact amount how much they follow these Russian channels like Sputnik or Russia Today over using VPN. But on the other hand, we know that from Russia, the audience who is watching Estonian content, for instance, in Estonian public broadcasting Russian channel, it's really growing, and they use also VPN in order to do this because it's an alternative channel very close to Russia, and they rather trust this one because it's in Russian but it's European. So having these kind of channels in Estonia, I think it's really important, although the audience may be small at first. They started this already 10 years ago, and then it was marginal. Later we had COVID, and we had and when the war started, we really saw that these Russian channels that are being broadcasted in Estonia and produced in Estonia, they are trusted because this is the source of information that originates from Estonian public broadcasting, for instance, or Estonian private channels, just such as Postimees or Delfi Media. And it's much better than something like Russia Today that is being created in Russia. So,
And Andres, is the trust among the Estonian Russian-speaking population higher for the Estonian Russian media as opposed to the Russian media?
absolutely, because they may watch entertainment from Russia, but because they're kind of used to it. But as it comes to the news values and newsworthiness, then it's a kind of a theoretical principle. Even one could say that what is next to your skin, you trust it more, and if there is a reliable source that you know that it reflects the Estonian reality as it goes on here in the local context, you turn on this channel rather than a channel that comes from distant and says some kind of conspiracy theories how things are in Europe and in Estonia particularly, and how they are kind of manipulating with your sense of nationality and security, etc. So yes, having these channels is very important, and these results confirm also these presumptions that we should have these channels. Also, what is important is Russian language audience. They really they are not consistent in their news consuming, in the sense that they switch channels between Estonian, English, also maybe German, Russian. Deutsche Welle, for instance, it is available in German, British public broadcasting, but also channels in English. Estonian audience is very Estonian oriented. They watch channels in Estonian and they kind of accept this reality, and this is not that multicultural. The multiculturality is a kind of variable that really characterizes this Russian-speaking audience. They watch Estonian channels, Russian channels produced in Estonia, somewhat more, and also they look for alternative resources and news. And what is also important is that the social media platforms, they really play a very important role in their media consumption, and they trust more their neighbors, their relatives, their the choices that platforms make for them, so, than Estonian-speaking audience. Now, when we look at the other outcomes of the survey, then there is another parameter that I would like to point out. This is the binary or opposition between liberals and conservatives. Estonian media, as we look at it, it has been very liberal-minded, and since the very beginning of 90s, this understanding that we don't have censorship, and there is not that much regulation as we used to have back in Soviet times is essentially a good thing, and being liberal has been a quality that really journalists are proud of, and they really value that Estonian journalism has been pushing. As we look at the this question, if the respondents are conservative or liberal, then yeah, around 45% of the respondents, they didn't want to make this choice because they don't know what these terms really mean, or they are not used to think about of themselves in this scale that, hey, I'm conservative and my neighbor is a liberal, I don't like them. But then again, there is around 30% of those who like to point that they are conservatives, and some 28% of those or something like this who would point that we are liberals. So it's almost equal. But as we look at the results from the elite interviews, that is really another methodological part of this MEDEU project. Then the respondents who spoke frankly, and most of them did, I think, their preferences and when they don't have to determine whether they are conservative or liberal, they tend to be towards being, or they lean to be towards being more conservative, because all these values and expressions and attitudes towards Europe, they kind of self-preserving and not, I wouldn't say nationalist, but kind of pointing out the very Estonian essence that we should protect in Europe. And as we look at the question whether the European project of integration has already gone too far or it should increase, then quite clearly there is a majority of those respondents who say that it has gone too far, because they feel that this federalization and centralization is something that we should avoid. Because
I have a question on that. It comes up, it also came up in previous podcast episodes that people think that federalization is too far or there's too much integration. But then when you ask on specific topics, they will say, oh, no, we need to do a lot more on that. We need to do a lot less on something else. So, for example, in a country like Estonia, which politically benefits hugely from integrated security, Frontex on migration, or, for example, things like defense and a European army, or a so-called European army. I mean, at least the perceptions of Frontex, European army, and so forth on security are seen I think, quite positive. They're necessarily. How did they then view that if they don't want more integration?
The thing is, people really do not acknowledge what is the value of European Union, what they do, what is the functionality of what is the real, I would say, value that they offer. Because as we look at the results that ask for the benefits of the membership of the European Union, the majority, 77%, said that supporting economic development is the main value that we get from Europe, and also better security guarantees, that is 52%. And only then protection of human rights and democracy, 28%, and then better social welfare and better management of migration, 10%, 16%. It's kind of an enigmatic unity, this European Union, that it does good. It's good for economy. It's good for security. It's good also for social welfare. And then again, if you ask them, has it really stepped on our knees or how our toes in order to I don't know, endanger Estonian national values, or does it endanger our culture via encouraging migration from other European countries? Then Estonians turn out to be rather like, oh, we don't want foreign interference, we don't want migrants, we don't want this influence from abroad. So, but I think it's a problem all around Europe, and it's not very particularly Estonian issue here, because we have been in European Union for 20 years now, since 2004. So the understanding of what Europe is very, very slow to emerge, I think. And
And Andres, in the civic discussions, because you had civic discussions as well, which were conducted with regard to the key outcomes.
mhm.
How were the civic discussions vis-a-vis these questions?
Yes, and when we had the civic discussion with students and other stakeholders in Tallinn University, and we started with this very question of what is the story of Europe? How do you understand it? Because what is yeah, we can ask for being conservative or liberal, or what are the main benefits that you think are we get from Europe. But then again, if you look at the whole picture, what is Europe? Then the understanding is that we are part of Europe, and it's good in general. And people really fail to point that hey, there are kind of if it's if it's centralized, then it's a danger. But if I think back to nine at the very beginning of 2000s, when we had a referenda in this question, then it was kind of a very often heard argument that hey, we just came from Soviet Union and then we step into the European Union, and what's the point here? Shouldn't we try to be independent for I don't know 30 or 40 or 50 years? And then again, there is this understanding that when we are a part of European Union, then we are part of European standards, European support measures, European traveling space, the Schengen space. We are kind of allowed to have entrance to all European countries. We can benefit from everything that Europe is. And I think this is the main argument that worked for Estonian people. And if you look at this European picture in general, I think there is very important also to look at this post-colonial discourse, which is rather different in Central Europe, in the Eastern Europe, and these old Western countries, because and it also is important that it's a subject to change very, very slowly. We have been in European Union for 20 years. You can still, if you look at Poland and Germany, you can still hear this discussion. Hey, shouldn't they be paying us the reparations for the Second World War again? And you can kind of point out the differences between France and Germany in political discourses. And when I remember back in 2016, when there was Brexit, then David Cameron stated proudly, we still have the Commonwealth, which is the political entity that died really like after the Second World War, but they're still thinking in terms of Commonwealth. So Estonian political consciousness is still thinking in terms of I wouldn't say like post-Soviet republic, but we still are thinking in terms of at least the generations that were born before 1980s and 1990s. And yeah, we are now 40 and 50 and 60 years old. We are the generation that are really making the decisions in this society. So the discourse that is being maintained is conservative. So it's really more conservative that we are used to think based on what media tells us, because and this is also the one of the main outcomes from the survey and from the elite interviews and media analysis, that media represents kind of liberal picture of Europe. It's a country of or a realm of possibilities. But then again, if you look at how people think about Europe, it's something that that is kind of we and them, we in Estonia and them making decisions in Brussels, and it's a kind of opposition between those two poles. And then so all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if we benefit or not. It's just we need to protect what is ours. And then again, there is this very interesting counter discourse that criticizes this Estonian politics from the point of view that, hey, we are doing the Brussels regulations with a German accuracy instead of interpreting them in a softer manner as they do in Spain and Italy and Portugal, maybe, because things are different there here in Estonia. We in Estonia were like sticked into filling every single order that comes from Brussels. But then again, if you go to this Mediterranean countries of Europe, then you see quite a different picture in this sense. So we are also quite self-critical about this how Europe is being managed here in the political scenario. So.
And Andres, what about the? I mean, we've spoken about the findings from the survey, very interesting ones, and also how the civic discussions went. And how do you put those together and think about recommendations for EU policymakers? How do the findings on polarization, on Russian media, on conservative, liberal, and also the things you spoke, all the things we've spoken about before, how can you put those into a recommendation to the EU?
The main thing I think is quick results cannot be expected. Estonian public really has accepted this, and Estonia is very pro-European compared to the beginning of 2000s. And all these discussions that happen here and that go on, they are good in a sense that it's a manifestation of freedom of speech. We can talk about everything, and that's good. It would be weird not to have this kind of identity-centered discussions over the future of Estonian culture on the one hand, and then again there is this aspect of federalization that really that is really a sensitive topic, I think. And as we look at this, how Hungary can kind of stack all these discussions, right? And Slovakia also related to the help of Ukraine, and how Poland can kind of interfere into the discussions that are related to the developments of democracy in Europe. How this very consensus-based culture may endanger certain decisions that sometimes need to be made very, very quickly in order to proceed in political questions. And what are the guarantees that when we give up this consensus-based culture in Europe, that at a certain moment we are not kind of in this position and looking, hey, we do not agree, but we are still on this train. So this very very thing that needs to be really taken care of in communication and explaining, and also certain legal guarantees should be invented in order to avoid that kind of threat that people really feel in this sense. But this is unavoidable, I think, and there still are these conservative far right voices that say that Europe is something that endangers our national statehood and culture and everything, but they don't really realize that for a small nation standing alone in this corner of the world, it's really something that is not sustainable in the longer run, and we need allies and a common space in order to.
Andres, maybe a very last question just on that topic. Those more far-right Estonian voices who have been more Eurosceptic in the past, has the war in Ukraine helped them understand that the EU can provide security?
No, the short answer is no. Their stance is that if we stop war in Ukraine, then it's going to be stopped forever. There is no further threats if there is a peaceful territory. And this is very simplistic understanding of reality and very kind of not far looking towards future, what might happen in 10 years or 20 years. So, and I also think that they are not responsible in the sense that what they talk, because they deep in the heart they know very well that this is not true what they're saying. But this is just for the votes and for the audience. And as I said, there is a lot of people who are conservative, and their worldview is kind of isolationist, and there is based on the media discourse, you couldn't really guess how many of them there are, because when the far right first appeared back in 2016, then it was a shock because they got seven seats in the parliament, and the next time they got already 18, I think. Now they have been kind of became less popular because the audience has recognized their ignorance and incapability for being on power, because they had a short period also in government, and that was ruthless. It's kind of thing that nobody wants to see again, I think. So, but yeah, but they're still there, and they do what they do because they want to get that sort of attention, and also they repeat point by point this Russian agenda that we see in America or Germany or Poland or anywhere. So.
All right, Andres, thank you very much. At this point, our discussion is coming to an end, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank you, Andres, for joining me and discussing these interesting findings, as well as the civic participation and the recommendation. Thank you so much, Andres.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. If you're interested in finding out more about the project and the people behind it, as well as, for example, accessing the summaries or our key results, finding our research publication, all you have to do is visit our website at www.mediatized.eu. You can subscribe to our newsletter, and of course, you can follow us on Twitter, which is @mediatized_EU. Thank you so much.